It's late. The house is quiet. Your phone screen is the only light in the room. You're not doing anything dramatic. You're just checking your bank account. Again, you already know the number before it loads, but you still look. Part of you hopes it magically changed since the last time you checked. It didn't, and yet something feels different tonight. Not better, not amazing, just quieter. The mental noise is lower. The panic is still there, but it's not driving the car anymore. And the strange part is this: your life didn't suddenly improve. Your job didn't change. Your expenses didn't disappear. Your problems are still very real. The only difference is that somewhere in the background, money showed up without you chasing it. Not a lot. Not enough to impress anyone. Not enough to quit anything. Just enough to breathe. Most people think financial freedom starts when you make a lot of money. They think it begins with a big salary, a big win, or a big break. That's wrong. The biggest psychological shift with money doesn't happen when you get rich. It happens much earlier, at a number so small that most people completely overlook it. And because they overlook it, they stay stuck for years. This video isn't about becoming wealthy. It's about crossing a line most people never even realize exists. A line where money stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like a tool. A line where your decisions change before your lifestyle ever does. A line where you're no longer one bad month away from panic. Not because the number is magical, but because your brain is. See, when people hear passive income, they immediately imagine freedom. Beaches, laptops, doing nothing while money pours in. That fantasy actually makes things worse. Because when real passive income finally arrives, even in a small amount, people don't recognize what it's supposed to do. They think it's a reward. It's not. It's a buffer. And buffers change everything. Before this point, every financial decision feels urgent. Every choice feels risky. Every unexpected expense feels personal. You don't think in years. You think in weeks. You don't ask, is this a good long-term move? You ask, will this hurt me right now? That's not a mindset problem. That's a survival problem. When your income depends entirely on your time, your body knows it. Your nervous system knows it. It doesn't matter how optimistic you try to be. Your brain is constantly scanning for danger. A delayed paycheck, a car noise, a message from your boss, a random bill. None of these things are catastrophic on their own. But when you don't have a buffer, they all feel like the beginning of a collapse. So you become careful, not strategic careful, defensive careful. You avoid risks. You delay decisions. You stay in situations you don't like because at least they're predictable. From the outside, it looks like laziness or fear. From the inside, it feels like self-preservation. Now here's the part almost nobody talks about. When a small, reliable stream of money shows up, money that doesn't require you to show up, your brain reacts before you do. You don't suddenly feel rich. You feel less hunted. That's the only way to describe it. The pressure eases just enough for you to think clearly, not positively. Clearly, you stop replaying worst-case scenarios on loop. You stop needing every decision to work out immediately. You're still careful, but now you're calculating, not panicking. And this shift happens long before your lifestyle changes. That's why people who cross this threshold often struggle to explain it. They'll say things like, I don't know, I just feel more relaxed about money now. Or, I stopped stressing about small stuff. Or, I feel like I finally have room to think. They assume this calm will come later, when they earn more. So they ignore it. But this calm is the thing that allows them to earn more. That's the loop most people miss. The world tells you confidence comes from success. In reality, better decisions come from safety. And safety doesn't require millions. It requires enough. Enough to not be desperate. Enough to not rush. Enough to wait. $1,000 a month doesn't change your lifestyle. It changes your posture. You stop leaning forward in fear. You sit back just enough to see the room. And once you can see the room, you start noticing options you couldn't see before. This is why two people with the same income can have completely different financial lives. One is reacting, the other is positioning. One is surviving, the other is planning. And the difference often starts with a buffer so small it doesn't even look impressive on paper. If you've ever wondered why some people seem calm even when things aren't perfect, why some people can say no to bad deals, why some people walk away instead of clinging, it's rarely because they're braver. It's because they crossed this line. This video is about that line. Not how to get rich, not how to escape work, not how to flex numbers. It's about understanding why everything feels different after you cross your first real passive income threshold, and why protecting that moment matters more than almost anything else you'll do with money. You stop sabotaging it, and that's where most people fail. Most money stress does not arrive loudly. It creeps in quietly. It shows up in small moments that seem harmless on their own. You wake up and the first thing you do is check your phone. Not messages, not news, your bank balance. You tell yourself you're just being responsible, but deep down you are checking for danger. You plan your week around money without realizing it. You delay errands until payday. You choose groceries based on what will last the longest. You avoid opening certain emails because you already know what they are about. None of this feels dramatic. It feels normal. You still go to work. You still laugh at jokes. You still make plans. But in the background, there is a constant calculation running. A quiet voice doing math. A voice asking how long you can hold things together. When something small goes wrong, it feels bigger than it should. A tire light turns on. A package is delayed. A bill is higher than expected. Your reaction is not anger. It is tension. Your shoulders tighten. Your breathing changes. Your mind jumps ahead to consequences that have not happened yet. You start bargaining with the future. If nothing else goes wrong this month, then maybe I will be okay. If I can just make it to next Friday, then I can relax. That relaxation never comes, because there is always another month. This is how people end up exhausted without doing anything extreme. They are not irresponsible. They are not bad with money. They are mentally on call all the time. Every decision feels heavier than it should. Not because it is expensive, because it feels irreversible. You do not ask whether something is worth it. You ask whether it is safe. You stay in jobs you have outgrown because they are familiar. You accept terms you do not like because saying no feels risky. From the outside, this looks like playing it safe. From the inside, it feels like being trapped. You want progress, but you cannot afford mistakes. You want growth, but you cannot handle instability. So you choose predictability over possibility, again and again. And slowly this becomes your identity. You start saying things like, I am just not a risk taker, or I prefer stability, or I am not wired for business or investing. But the truth is simpler. You are wired for survival. It does not matter how smart you are. It does not matter how motivated you are. Your nervous system does not care about motivation. It cares about continuity. Will the money stop if you get sick? Will the money stop if the company changes direction? Will the money stop if life interrupts? When the answer is yes, your brain treats every month like a test. Pass or fail. That pressure leaks into everything. You overthink purchases, even small ones. You second-guess yourself constantly. You replay decisions long after they are made. You feel guilty spending money even on things you need. You feel anxious saving money because you might need it soon. You feel stuck because every option feels wrong. And the hardest part is that nobody sees this. From the outside, you look fine. Bills are paid. Life is moving. But internally, you are bracing all the time. This is why advice that sounds simple feels impossible. Just invest more. Just take risks. Just start something on the side. Those sentences assume a level of safety you do not have. They assume your brain is operating in planning mode. It is not. It is operating in defense mode. Defense mode is excellent at keeping you alive. It is terrible at building a future. In defense mode, you optimize for avoiding pain. You do not optimize for upside. So you end up with a life that is stable but fragile. Everything works as long as nothing breaks. This is why people say things like one emergency would ruin me. Not because they are careless, because they have no buffer, no margin, no room. And without room, even good opportunities feel dangerous. A new job sounds exciting, but what if it does not work out? A side project sounds interesting, but what if it distracts you? An investment sounds promising, but what if you need the money? So you wait. You tell yourself you will move when things feel safer, when you earn more, when you have more saved. But safety never arrives first. It arrives second. This is the loop most people are stuck in without realizing it. They think their problem is income, or discipline, or knowledge. But the real problem is that they are making long-term decisions with a short-term nervous system. That conflict is exhausting, and it explains why so many smart, capable people feel stuck for years. They are not failing. They are coping. And coping looks like progress until it does not. You can live like this for a long time, longer than you think. You can adjust to constant pressure. You can normalize it, but the cost shows up quietly. You stop dreaming. You stop experimenting. You stop believing things can change without breaking everything. You become careful with your imagination. This is where most people are when they hear about passive income, not dreaming of freedom, just hoping for relief. They do not want yachts. They want quiet. They want to stop flinching every time money comes up. They want to make choices without feeling like one wrong move will undo everything. They want breathing room. And this is the part that rarely gets said clearly. The first meaningful goal is not abundance. It is relief. Relief from constant vigilance. Relief from mental math. Relief from living one interruption away from panic. That is the emotional problem most people are actually trying to solve. And until that problem is addressed, everything else feels forced. Strategies feel heavy. Plans feel unrealistic. Advice feels disconnected from real life. Because you cannot build calmly while your mind is bracing for impact. Something has to change before behavior changes. And that something is not more effort. It is margin. In the next section, we will talk about why this pressure exists at a psychological level, not in theory, in everyday human terms. Why your brain reacts this way. Why small buffers create big shifts. And why this change happens before numbers look impressive. To understand why everything changes after this point, you have to stop thinking about money and start thinking about the brain. Your brain has one primary job: keep you alive. Everything else is secondary. It cares about continuity. Will food keep coming? Will shelter remain? Will safety hold? Money is not just a number to your brain. It is a signal of safety or danger. When all of your income depends on your effort, your brain treats your life like a balancing act. If you slip even slightly, things fall apart. Survival without margin still feels dangerous. Your brain does not relax when things are barely okay. It relaxes when there is slack. Think of it like driving a car with the fuel light always on. You might reach your destination many times, but you are tense the entire drive. Every sound matters. Every delay feels threatening. Now imagine driving with half a tank. Same route, same car, different body. Nothing external changed. Your internal state did. This is exactly what happens when passive income appears. Not because it is large, but because it is independent. Money that arrives without action sends a powerful signal to the brain. It says continuity exists without constant effort. That message alone changes how your nervous system behaves. When income is fully active, your brain stays in what psychologists call threat scanning mode. It is constantly looking for problems before they happen. This is not anxiety as a personality trait. It is a biological response. In this mode, your thinking becomes narrow. You focus on short time frames. You prioritize certainty over upside. You do not explore. You protect. That is why people under financial pressure often make decisions that look irrational from the outside. They turn down opportunities. They stay in bad situations. They avoid learning curves. From the inside, those choices feel safe. The brain is not asking what is best. It is asking what is least risky right now. Now here is the part most people misunderstand. Willpower does not override biology. Your brain needs evidence. Evidence that even if something goes wrong, you will not immediately fall. Passive income provides that evidence, not because it covers everything, but because it proves something new. That money can arrive without constant vigilance. This is why the shift feels subtle but deep. You do not suddenly feel confident. You feel less rushed. You stop reacting so quickly. You pause more. That pause is everything, because good decisions require space. Before this point, your decisions are compressed by urgency. After this point, they expand. You start asking different questions. Instead of will this hurt me, you ask, will this help me? Instead of how fast can I fix this, you ask, is this worth building? Instead of can I afford this, you ask, does this move me forward? Their conscious mind celebrates, but their subconscious does not trust it yet. So it tries to convert the new income into immediate comfort. Better food, more convenience, small upgrades. This feels logical, but psychologically, it sends the wrong signal. It tells the brain this money is not a buffer. It is consumption. So the brain stays in threat mode. Nothing changes. The buffer only works if it remains a buffer. Think of a castle. The walls are not decoration. They are not meant to be lived in. They exist to create safety inside. Passive income functions the same way. Its first job is not enjoyment. Its first job is protection. Once the brain feels protected, consistently it allows higher order thinking to take over. Planning, patience, strategy. This is when people begin to behave differently without trying to. They negotiate instead of accepting. They wait instead of rushing. They invest instead of hoarding. Not because they learned something new, but because their nervous system changed. One has margin, the other does not. Margin is psychological before it is mathematical. Your brain prefers boring and predictable over exciting and fragile. And why steady passive income feels calming even if it is modest. Consistency tells the brain the future exists. Without that signal, the brain stays stuck in present tense. This is where many people get confused about motivation. They think they lack discipline. They think they are lazy. They think they are afraid. In reality, their brain is overloaded. You cannot ask a mind under threat to build a vision. It is busy guarding the door. Once the threat level drops slightly, something interesting happens. Your identity begins to shift. You stop seeing yourself as someone who must react. You begin to see yourself as someone who can choose. This is subtle but powerful. Choice creates dignity. Dignity creates confidence. Not loud confidence, quiet confidence. The kind that does not need to prove anything. They stop obsessing. They stop comparing. Money moves from the foreground to the background. It becomes infrastructure, not entertainment. That is the real psychological upgrade. Money stops being the main character. And when money is no longer the main character, your life gets bigger. Your attention moves outward. You notice opportunities. You think in systems. This is why the biggest benefit of this milestone is invisible. No one sees your nervous system relax. No one sees your decision quality improve. They only see results years later and assume you got lucky. But luck favors calm minds. Calm minds wait. Calm minds compound. This is the part that rarely gets explained honestly. Wealth building is not primarily about intelligence or hustle. It is about operating from the right psychological state long enough. The 1,000 monthly buffer is not special because of the number. It is special because it often crosses the line where survival anxiety loosens its grip, not disappears, loosens, and that is enough. Enough to think differently, enough to act differently, enough to stop making fear-based decisions. What it steals over time, not dramatically, quietly. At some point something clicks, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet realization. You understand that the problem was never that you were bad with money. It was that you were operating without room. You were trying to build a future while your mind was busy preventing collapse. This is the turning point, not when income explodes, not when life becomes easy, but when you finally see the pattern. You see that most of your stress did not come from spending too much. It came from having no buffer. You see that most of your hesitation did not come from fear. It came from urgency. You see that most of your bad decisions were not bad thinking. They were survival responses. This realization is grounding because it removes shame. You stop blaming yourself for not taking risks earlier. You stop replaying old choices. You stop comparing your pace to others. You understand that you were doing the best you could with the level of safety you had. And now you know what actually changes the game. Not more hustle, not extreme discipline, not perfect strategy. Margin. That is what the first real passive income milestone does. It does not buy freedom. It buys space. Space to pause before reacting. Space to think before deciding. Space to wait instead of rush. When you see this clearly, your behavior starts to change naturally. You stop treating extra income like a reward. You start treating it like infrastructure. You protect it. You let it sit. You let it stack quietly. You do not rush to upgrade your life. You upgrade your stability first. This is where the invisible cost finally reverses. Time starts working with you instead of against you. You are no longer trying to win this month. You are building the next decade. Your decisions become calmer. Your patience grows. Your confidence becomes quieter. You stop asking what feels good right now. You start asking what makes future life easier. This is not deprivation. It is clarity. You understand that every dollar kept as buffer is buying you time. And time is the most valuable asset you have. With time, you can wait out bad moments. With time, you can learn. With time, you can recover from mistakes. Without time, everything feels fragile. This is why the 1,000 monthly milestone matters so much. Not because it is impressive, because it changes your relationship with uncertainty. Uncertainty stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like a variable, and variables can be managed. This is the moment when money moves out of the spotlight. It stops being the thing you constantly think about. It becomes the thing quietly supporting everything else. You still work, you still plan, you still care, but you are no longer bracing all the time. You are no longer living in preparation mode. You start living in building mode. That is the real payoff. Not luxury, not status, not escape. Stability. The kind that lets you sleep. The kind that lets you say no. The kind that lets you wait. Most people never reach this point because they spend the buffer the moment it appears. They mistake relief for reward. But once you understand what that first buffer is actually doing, you protect it differently. You respect it because you know it is not extra money. It is the foundation of everything that comes next. If there is one idea to carry with you, it is this. The goal is not to feel rich. The goal is to stop feeling rushed. When you stop feeling rushed, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your life follows. Quietly, slowly, reliably. That is how real financial change happens. Not in big moments, but in calm ones, when nothing dramatic happens. And that is exactly the point.